8th, 2023. Welcome to the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm Glenn Rubenstien, joined tonight by Matt Kuhn, and we are talking about SmackDown, CM Punk making his return to SmackDown for the first time in forever, and it was tribute to the troops. They combined it with a regular SmackDown this year. First time in a long time. It's been its own separate show, usually airing midweek, and it made for a really unique episode of SmackDown tonight.
Absolutely. It was fun. It was different. And plus, we had some news-making things that kind of kicked off WrestleMania season a little bit early today, too. So even though it kind of, in one sense, was an uneventful show, in another sense, it was very eventful.
Yes. Oh my God. It's interesting that it felt like a tribute to the troops usually has a really, I mean, obviously a very patriotic vibe, but usually it's a fun sort of house show energy. It's WWE's chance to give back. And the first hour really captured that to a great extent. And then CM Punk showed up and then he didn't leave. It was Phil's journey for the rest of the evening, just popping up backstage, appearing everywhere, interacting with folks. If you felt like they used him sparingly on his Raw appearance tonight, well, you definitely had your fill
of Phil. That's a great pun right there. It was definitely much different approach. You know, in the one sense, they cut some time from CM Punk on Monday Night Raw. He didn't have as much time. But in the other sense, maybe they learned their lesson a little bit. And they said, hey, maybe we should approach SmackDown a little bit differently. And it paid off. You know, WWE is in the business now of improving from their mistakes. And it's a really cool thing to see. They learn and they move on. And it's very different. And I think it was effective.
And I think it was smart that they promoted CM Punk's appearance tonight because, like I said earlier, tribute to the troops, even though it's a very important show for WWE, it's something they're immensely proud of and they put a lot of effort into every year. In terms of ratings, it does have that sort of house show exhibition vibe. So it's telling everyone CM Punk's making an appearance tonight really built up that this was going to be more than just, a celebratory give back end of year show.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a different vibe. I normally miss the tribute to the troops because it's not canonical. It's not storyline related. And so, you know, it's just an exhibition. But this one was kind of, if you want to know what's going on in the next few months, this was the SmackDown to watch.
So we do have one piece of news before we dive in, and that's Okada. He's reportedly open to leaving New Japan Wrestling when his current deal expires next year. And the prevailing belief is that WWE could be in the leading position to acquire his talents. Per Wrestling Observer newsletter this week, WWE's long expressed an interest in Okada. And, the feelings might not be mutual. He's got something lined up with TNA in January at the Snake Eyes taping. But WWE's really making a push.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. If I'm Okada, I pick WWE. You know, he was brought in for an appearance for AEW recently, and it was a very slapdash kind of appearance that didn't make a dent in the ratings. Maybe didn't treat him, the way he could have been as far as a build-up. And then at the same time, you see the way that Cody Rhodes has been presented in WWE. You see the way CM Punk has been treated and presented in WWE. And it's a world of difference. So if I'm Okada, it probably comes down to the work schedule. If you can do the work schedule, you choose WWE.
And I'd be interested to know, though, TNA supposedly made a serious offer to CM Punk. I would love to know what dollar range they're scraping with some of these higher end offers now.
Probably, I have no idea, I would assume that the Punk deal is over $1 million a year for WWE, and I would doubt that Impact was, any more than a quarter of that. That's just a pure guess.
I'd be curious to know. I mean, with WWE, maybe given that his stock was a little tarnished after the way he left AEW, they got him on a bit of a discount. And I think given what he's done for the ratings, given what he's done for just online speculation, people talking during what is typically the slowest time of year for professional wrestling, they're certainly getting their money's worth. But yeah, it'd be very, very interesting to see, what a top Impact deal is compared to AEW, compared to WWE. But tonight we had tribute to the troops coming from Providence, Rhode Island. And JBL was back on commentary, which took a little getting used to.
Yeah, he's not bad. He's good at it. He can make some insightful comments, and he can get you swept up in the make believe world of professional wrestling. Sometimes he, may say a thing or two that can push you off, but
Just the thing.
generally, I don't have any trouble with him as a commentator. Generally, I don't think.
I mean, it was interesting tonight. He was actually, to his credit, a little more familiar with the product than I thought he would be. When he did that NXT intro for the Iron Survivor qualifiers, like that was JBL reading. JBL had no clue who any of those talents were. It seemed very forced, but tonight he seemed at least a little familiar with most of the people in the ring.
In his defense, there's a lot of wrestling on these days. It's hard to keep track of everybody. I can't watch SmackDown, Raw, NXT, Rampage, Collision, Dynamite. I'm not watching that all, and I doubt JBL watches 3 wrestling shows a week too. That's ludicrous.
Yeah, it's a bit much. But we opened tonight with the War and Treaty singing God Bless America. Michael Cole, JBL, and Kevin Patrick were on commentary. And of course, we had the men and women of the armed services in attendance tonight. Santos Escobar versus Dragon Lee opened the show. First round match for the United States Championship Tournament. And Dominic Mysterio was there watching on as Santos picked up the win.
Good match. Dragon Lee, definitely to me, is someone that they're molding to be the next, maybe Rey Mysterio, but definitely kind of the next big deal. And I think to do that, Santos Escobar had his nice little heel turn with Rey Mysterio, but I'm not sure he's really catching fire. If they had brought in Dominic, why bring in Dominic? If Santos is kind of the great foil for what's going on. I think Dragon Lee and Dominic Mysterio, I need to see more of that. I think they did some stuff in NXT. I'm not sure, but I need to see that match.
Shabowski saying Dragon Lee losing without Dom interfering made 0 sense. A deadline. So tomorrow, Saturday, we're going to have Rey Mysterio there with in Dragon Lee's corner when Dragon Lee takes on Dominic Mysterio for the NXT North American Championship.
Yeah, I don't follow NXT that closely, so
it's so good, dude.
Good for the they burned me, man. Like they had the black and yellow, and then they just blew it up and turned it to just a
world of color.
Vomit. Yeah, it was awful. And I've tried to watch recently, but I think it's just too much wrestling, man. I think I'm just gonna stick with like 3 shows. I think.
Yeah. Deadline should be good tomorrow. I think there's going to be some interesting matches. I'm very curious to see. I think Baron Corbin might win the NXT Championship tomorrow off Ilya Dragunov. Could be quite an upset win, but it seems like they're telegraphing it. And very interested to see how the women's Iron Survivor match turns out and who the new #1 contender is for the NXT Women's title. So it'll be good. But tonight, Dominic at ringside was good. I like JBL saying that he's comparing him to Gandhi. That was fun. JBL definitely knows how to just sort of pile on with the hyperbole. And I think, you have to wonder with the WWE booking math, did Dragon Lee lose tonight because he's winning tomorrow? Did he lose tonight because he's losing tomorrow? And they're going to say he was softened up before the match with Dominic. Is Santos maybe going to help Dominic Mysterio tomorrow? This was very interesting how they used the first round of this tournament to crown a new #1 contender for the U.S. title, how they use this to set up even further this NXT match tomorrow. So it was a fun opener, but I think it's going to be fun. And yes, speculation is that Los Lotharios, or Los Lobos Locos, as Issa and I have been calling them, because they're werewolves now, Matt, in NXT. They haven't transformed.
They're great talents,
Yes.
The Lotharios, they're great talents. Like,
yes,
I can see them and Escobar becoming a very, very good act together.
Yeah, I think that'll be good, and that's the speculation of where that's going. So this was a fun opening match tonight. Good start to the show, but Santos, since he's turned heel, is getting that push. Randy Orton was fined last week for hitting Nick Aldis with the RKO. So he paid not the fine of $50,000, but paid a fine of $100,000 just to prepay ahead for the next time it happens.
Bryan Danielson is out of control. He is out of control. He's now finding people in both companies, not just AEW. Yeah, that was a fun little segment, although it did seem a little high. You know what I'm saying? Like 50, your average person, I don't think makes $100,000 a year. So when you got the baby face just throwing away 100,000, that's maybe not as cool as you think it is.
Yeah, it's tough to quantify. I would love to know the backstage discussion about like, well, 10,000, no, that's too small. We got to make him look like a superstar. 50,000, yeah, so, like I'm sure there was debate about this.
Well, you got to make it hurt. You got to make it hurt.
Yeah.
To find, because you can't just have talent running around RKOing the general managers. If you don't set an example for that, it's bedlam. It's bedlam back there.
It's true. I mean, we wonder why Tony Khan feared for his life.
Because he does not have a fine system in place, but maybe he does now. But I doubt he's fining people $50,000 because. I mean, to him, $50,000, $500 is kind of the same thing, really.
Well, yeah, for TK. But yeah, disciplined daddy Daniel Bryan, though, Bryan Danielson. Who knows what fines he's given out, those monetary fines for social media conduct.
He's going to make anybody, instead of finding them money, he makes them plant a tree.
Oh, there you go. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Kind of ties into his ethos,
you plant a tree. Every time you do a passive-aggressive tweet about AEW, you have to plant a tree.
Yeah. New version of the swear jar. There we go. So we heard from Cody Rhodes tonight. And he was out there to thank all the troops for attending. It was nice. It was nice to see Cody. He had a very, very nice moment with the crowd tonight.
Cody keeps the momentum going. Cody, I talked about this on Monday on the Raw post show. Cody has had not a ton of awesome stuff to do. He is being perpetuated by the belief of Cody Rhodes, and the fans who initially were like, oh, the AEW guy, or oh, the old guy, or oh, the new star, or however they saw him when he first arrived, have grown to love Cody Rhodes. Like, you can see obvious affection and interaction going both ways, and Cody is connected to the audience of WWE unlike any other wrestler in WWE right now. And it's a testament to his hard work, his belief in himself, and his energy that he just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah. But this is where I was like, okay, this followed up with Bobby Lashley getting an obvious win over Karrion Kross, but them talking about Bobby's service record was like, okay, this is going to be a very feel-good show, but maybe not the biggest story development SmackDown that we've ever seen. But Bobby versus Karrion, what's up with Kross, man? I think they're just coasting now till we get a repackage and a repush, because tonight, I mean, we barely see him and he ain't winning these matches.
I like Karrion Kross,
Love it.
Killer Kross. I've known, interviewed him a long time ago. For him, I hope they figure it out. But to me, it looks like a re-release. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't have anything for him. They don't put any stock in him. And when you start bringing guys to TV that you only see once in a while just to lose, that's never a good sign that the repackage is coming. That's never a good sign that's a good repackage. This is a guy that someone in WWE does not see the value in that a lot of other people do.
What if it's a reverse Samson, and if he just shaves his hair, he'll be strong again and start winning matches?
Well, I think when he had the hair shave before, he wore the demolition outfit.
We're going to pretend that never happened.
Dude, just so terrible. This poor guy. I think if they consulted him and they said, okay, how would you like your character to be presented? I think that's a good starting point. They're going with the old NXT, presentation, but then, just getting squasherooed by Bobby Lashley, which is probably the right move. It doesn't seem like Karrion is kind of like he's got a lot of big things for WrestleMania season to look forward to.
Yeah, it's tough for him right now, but I hope he gets a repackage in the year, because I think the guy's got a lot of talent. Him losing to Bobby, though, and Bobby should have absolutely won this match, not just because of the crowd they were in front of, but I think given the run he's been on, which is interesting because with the Street Profits, when it was first clear that Bobby and the Street Profits were going together, you thought, man, this is going to be great for the Street Profits. They're going to have Bobby manage them in their corner. And this has turned into a Bobby Lashley push.
It's fine. It doesn't hurt the Street Profits. Like, there's still this tag team that's being presented as an upper tier tag team. Of course, Bobby Lashley, I think this was supposed to be a heel faction. Bobby Lashley continuing his streak of being the most miscast person in WWE. They never seem to do the thing with him that would make the most sense. The fans, last week it started. This week was ridiculous because of the Armed Forces connection and them leaning into it. But, from him not having a WrestleMania match last year to this year where he is being cheered, to his sisters when he first came in.
We got to pretend that never happened.
And then Lana,
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
This guy, and even the start-stop of the Hurt Business, this guy is perpetually miscast, perpetually underused. He was a slow starter in wrestling. Don't get me wrong. Like, his first run in WWE wasn't awesome, and you looked at him and you said, well, God, look at him. Like, he's got to be something. And he figured it out while he was away from WWE. He is ready now, and he's an ace in the hole. They use him whenever they want. But they should take advantage of it, because I can think of a variety of WrestleMania matchups for Lashley that are appealing.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you, though, given his service connection and the push he got tonight, if Lacey Evans could have just held on another year, tonight could have been the night the repackage finally went over with the audience.
No, still would have died. Still would have just died a slow death.
It's one of the weirder stories, man. Coming on to NXT thought she had so much potential on the main roster.
Sometimes, I'm not saying this is the case with Lacey Evans. I don't know. But sometimes you can just look at someone's history and say, maybe they're hard to work with, Maybe they're hard
in professional wrestling, Matt, those people exist.
Like, I know with a musician, if you see a musician who's played with everybody, you go, oh my God, he played with this person and that person, this person. My God, how good is he? That means he doesn't get along with people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. I mean, or there's the case that, when every member of Guns N' Roses turns to Steven Adler and says, dude, we think you have a problem with substance abuse.
Imagine getting kicked out of Guns N' Roses for drugs, Imagine, how much drugs is that to get kicked? Slash is in your band. You know what I'm saying? Like, Duff McKagan is in your band. How do you get kicked out of Guns N' Roses for drugs?
I'll do you one better. How are you in Metallica and you're like, hey, Dave Mustaine, we kind of think you got a bit of a personality and attitude problem.
Luckily Dave Mustaine got over it pretty quickly.
Yeah, but he still misses his little Dutch friend Lars.
He is so not over it.
I know. I just think of that scene in the documentary.
Yeah, Megadeth is an amazing band because it's the most platinum records that have ever been sold purely because of spite.
And he's still bummed because it's not what Metallica did.
You don't get over it, bro. You don't get over
I know.
The band you started just being the biggest band ever. And then, he's not a good singer. We have a band right now at my music school doing a Megadeth song, Tornado of Souls is the name of the song. And, it's not Metallica. It's fine. It's fine metal. But it's amazing just with pure desire, spite, and resentment, the success he was able to get. And still not enjoy a single moment of it is an amazing testament to Dave Mustaine.
Yeah. So, speaking of the band, with Damage Control tonight, Bayley volunteered to stay in the back during Asuka's match against Charlotte Flair tonight. Dakota Kai and the rest of Damage Control are going there. That's kind of dicey. Brian Wilson sending Glenn Campbell out to replace him on the Beach Boys tour wasn't long before Brian Wilson wasn't touring with the Beach Boys and then wasn't in the Beach Boys for a period of time. Bayley being, I'm going to stay back. It's really not going to be surprising when the group decides maybe we don't need Bayley.
Well, Bayley doesn't need to be deaf in one ear like Brian Wilson to realize what's going on as far as the canon goes. Like I said last Friday, I think this is all leading to 4 horsewomen. This is all leading to 4 horsewomen or maybe backup 3 horsewomen and Bianca maybe. But I think, Mercedes returning and this being the match against the Damage Control, who maybe by then will have all the gold. I think it's a perfect thing, because otherwise, why kick Bayley out? What you got waiting for you?
Yeah. And if they don't get Mercedes back, and Bianca's the backup, she'll be like the Jeff Lynne of the Beatles. Just like, here to fill in a little bit because we don't have all of them. But no, I think, sorry, we're going to be really obnoxious with the music references now that we've started.
Music today.
Yeah, just all music references. Anyhow, CM Punk came out tonight. And I have to admit, if you would tell me CM Punk's coming out during Tribute to the Troops, I would be like, this sounds really not like, yeah. But this is where SmackDown took a turn tonight, where the first hour felt like Tribute to the Troops, and the second hour was the CM Punk show, SmackDown. CM Punk came out, and they're making this big deal. Which brand is he going to go to? Is he going to go to Raw? Is he going to stay on SmackDown? He's talking to HBK. Maybe he's going to go to NXT. I would love to see that happen. It'll never happen, but I would love to see that happen. But what do you think, before we talk about the contents of this promo, what do you think about this idea that, he's calling out Roman Reigns, he's calling out Seth Rollins, he's even talking about, Randy Orton teaming with him, teaming with LA Knight, even talking about Kevin Owens. Maybe they can have a career versus shirt match, so him and Owens can finally squash that beef from 20 years ago. But what do you think about this idea that there's, oh my God, all this anticipation about which brand CM Punk's going to go to?
Smart. Number one, no one cares. Like, no one ever has cared who signs with what brand. No one cares. Doesn't matter. Saw Cody Rhodes and Dominic Mysterio on SmackDown tonight. Nobody cares what brand you're with. As far as CM Punk goes and their approach to it, the thing that we all thought, right, which is kind of CM Punk's deal, is he gets to WWE and he starts just pipe bombing his way through and a lot of, over the top comments. Oh my God, I can't believe he said that. But because, number one, of the NDAs, but also number two, maybe that's not the right deal now. CM Punk returned to WWE and immediately attached himself to WWE canon. He just got in the universe. He came back and he's back in the universe, and any gripe he has are with the wrestlers who were there, not the management, not the other company he used to work with, not the world at large, but his beef are with wrestlers in the company. And nobody's really noticed, that's what he's done. He's done it from day one. And it happened with the Seth Rollins reaction outside the ring. Very, very smart. They have fans clamoring for Seth Rollins versus CM Punk, and neither one has really mentioned the other on air. It is just, and it's so smart what they're doing. People are clamoring for a match, and they haven't really even teased it yet on air.
Yeah, although Seth's doing that SI interview today with Sports Illustrated, the drop where he's talking about CM Punk. Fantastic. Yeah, they know how to work the media on this. This is one of the smartest built matches and feuds that they've done in quite some time. Although I do have to say tonight, he did mention maybe he'll make his choice in the city he walked out of when he walked out of WWE. He did talk about some of the people up top and in the back who he's been a thorn in their side. This felt like that. I mean, and when he came to AEW, when he came back to wrestling, that first promo was very much a love letter to professional wrestling and what it means to him. But he definitely ran the "aw shucks, just happy to be here" Phil Brooks into the ground, I think, in AEW before he got into some real beef with people. I think this was smart tonight to have him come out, be gracious of the crowd, gracious for the attention, but immediately do a little bit of a greatest hits run on some of the CM Punk that people know and love. But the craziest thing, okay, and credit to the person backstage that figured this out, that when Kevin Owens was referenced, that Kevin Owens had that spot a month ago where he punched out Austin Theory and Grayson Waller with one punch backstage. Credit to the person who said, oh, we can have CM Punk reference this, and people think it's a reference to him supposedly sucker punching Jungle Boy Jack Perry backstage, getting him fired from AEW, when CM Punk said, I don't know who'd want to tag team partner with somebody who goes around backstage punching people in the face in the year 2023. That was a masterful way to weave that in and have it be a double meaning.
And you made a great point on Twitter about that.
Yeah. Crickets.
The point you made was that because maybe because of the audience for tribute to troops, but there was not like this any kind of reaction really. It was just your regular cheering reaction to CM Punk saying that thing. And your point was that it reflected poorly on AEW as opposed to poorly on Punk, because if nobody cares, that means nobody cares about AEW. That's how I kind of read it.
Yeah, well, actually, I meant it a couple different ways because I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, so one is that, oh my God, he's firing a shot at AEW. And then the shot, okay, that's one thing. That's just a wink and a nod. But then part of me was originally saying, yeah, what a burn to AEW that the audience was like, we don't know what you're referencing or talking about. But then I was also like, but that also blows back on Phil a little bit because that's his notoriety of what he did in AEW. Now it's the thing, he's the most famous thing perhaps that he did in AEW, and people have no awareness of it. So it's a very interesting meta commentary that was meant to be his B Rabbit. Papa Doc went to Cranbrook. His real name's Clarence, and the crowd was just kind of like, my brother went to Claremont or your Cranbrook. What? It's a good educational institution. Right. It was just like the crowd was just kind of like, we don't get why this is an insult.
I think they might have, the delivery wasn't great of it, number one, and it was the wrong crowd for that joke, you know?
Yeah.
But it's really interesting with CM Punk that he cannot say anything really more than that about AEW. But I think, I don't know if they want to do this. I know WWE doesn't want to bring attention to AEW.
No.
The loophole would be there's no stopping anybody else from talking about it on screen to him. So Seth Rollins could talk about him punching Jungle Boy to his face, and CM Punk would just have to stay silent.
Could you imagine people
that move?
Don't watch AEW, that don't know AEW, are going to hear out of context, well, so-and-so, when you punch Jungle Boy, people are going to be like, what in the hell is he talking about? This just sounds ridiculous.
I think I think wrestling fans keep up with wrestling as opposed to watch wrestling. So I think even though a large portion of the AEW audience watches WWE, I think a small portion of WWE audience watches AEW regularly, but they're all aware of everything. Everybody is on the internet about everything.
Yeah.
There's no IWC, there's no casual fan. We are all Googling and Wikipediaing everything we watch. So I think if you're a WWE fan, you're not gonna be like, I wonder where CM Punk's been. He's gonna look it up. They're gonna be like, oh crap, dude got in a fight, and probably it before.
Yeah. Although it would, okay, so what would be awesome that they could do now though, given the merger, is if Seth Rollins, like, let's look at some of the highlights of the last 10 years of your career and shows like him getting clobbered in UFC. And then the joke is, let's show some of the highlights of your AEW career, and then it's just a black screen.
That would be funny, or let's show a footage of a very famous fight you were in, and then just show him get knocked out.
That would be good. Yeah, by Mickey. Yeah. Man, I watched that reality series about his UFC training. I was very excited for his UFC debut.
Dude, you know what? People don't give enough credit. Like Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan played AA ball, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's like, what a failure. No.
Yeah.
Dude came out of high school, had not played baseball in a decade, goes and bats 200 or whatever with like 50 stolen bases and AA ball.
Oh, yeah.
Like, dude was going to be a 300 hitter in the major leagues if he gave another year. So CM Punk by no means is a failure. He worked his ass off. He made it his job. He did his best. He lacked the physical tools and he lacked the age to make an impact in the UFC. But I bet he could kick a lot of people's ass. And no one can take that away from him. Like anybody, most people who criticize him for that wouldn't do 1/10 of what he did to be such a quote unquote failure.
And just to be clear, I say this because this is what I do. It's my job to just make jokes and smarky remarks about things. But CM Punk looks fantastic. Good haircut. Looks younger now than he did 6 months ago in AEW.
He's got some issues with the hair. He's got a full head of hair, but his cuts aren't great. And so this last cut, I'm for it. He also looked like he put on a little bit of weight since the last time we saw him in AEW.
But he looks good though. He's in good shape. He went through the UFC training, and meanwhile, I think the high point of my week is that I learned that you could make peanut butter fudge just out of Jif peanut butter and a jar of vanilla frosting. If you mix them together in a microwave and let it cool, you've got peanut butter fudge. He's in front of a crowd of tens of thousands.
Information I did not need, but will probably access at some point.
Yeah, dude, dangerously good. I tried some before, went on the air, and I was like, I have to stop eating this, or I'm going to eat this entire tray of 2-ingredient peanut butter fudge. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. Well, how's the air fryer working out? Did you hook it up?
I hadn't even gotten out of the box yet.
Oh, dude. I let mine sit in the box for 6 months, but I have to tell you, once I started using it now, I can't stop. This is what I cook. I have a beautiful oven. I cook everything in the Cuisinart convection oven still with the air frying technology.
I do a lot of door dashing.
Yeah, I finally stopped doing that.
Dude, like I stopped for like last month for like a month. I made a fortune. Like I saved so much money.
Yeah, right.
It is so like thousands of dollars, not just,
it's ridiculous.
Thousands of dollars. So I got to get off it because, I think I just ordered a Mexican dinner for like $35. That would cost like $14 to order.
Yeah.
$8 to make, and I'm not rich, Glenn, so it's not really.
I feel you. I look at what we spent on DoorDash 1 month, and I'm like, this is insane. I need to find the energy to cook again.
Dude, I'm not adding up those numbers ever.
Yeah, never do that. It's kind of the thing. We live in Vegas, and everyone around us has a pool. And then we were like, maybe we'll get a pool. And then I read something that said, calculate what your cost per swim will be, and you won't want to buy a pool. Because those are some pricey swims, unless you're even if you're using it every day. So CM Punk tonight, highlight of the show. And if you thought that after all of this, so he's going to you're going to be seeing him on Raw. Who knows? He could be in the audience of NXT tomorrow night, but he wasn't done tonight. We saw more of CM Punk backstage, walking around, making friends, influencing people, shaking hands, asking for directions. We'll talk about all that. But then we had Asuka with Damage Control. Asuka with this like Grinch inspired design with the like going in, like this is freaking me out a little bit. Like she looks like deadly.
I think a face painted wrestler is probably more fun. Because you get to experiment, and like I remember Hawk and Animal used to have different patterns, and then one day they just happened upon the pattern they would stay with forever. But I think it's fun, like Sting would have different patterns every time, and I think Asuka uses her face as a artistic palette.
Oh, it's great. When she came back looking like a glossed up juggalo, like that was phenomenal. That's still my favorite.
I just saw, what's the juggalo I just saw wrestle?
Violent J.
Yes, I just saw him and Effie wrestle together against George South.
Violent J, man, he's made a health comeback. He, 2 years ago, he wasn't going to tour anymore because of heart conditions, but I guess, diet, exercise, and the right meds. And
he's charging $50 an autograph, so good for him.
Yeah. Oh, I paid $85 to meet Shaggy 2 Dope backstage a few months ago in Vegas. And I have to say, like, it was worth it. He was super nice. We talked for like 15 minutes about wrestling and other stuff. ICP needs, what's that?
Did you find out how magnets work?
Okay, so my plan for the photo, I talked about this with my wife. I said, I'm going to get a large magnet, and I'm going to have him sign that, and then get a photo where he's holding the magnet looking puzzled with me. And then my wife said, you're going to end up with a photo where he's strangling you with the magnet. And I said, even better. But I couldn't find a comically oversized magnet in time. I was very bummed.
Visually, it's hard to get the point of magnet across.
Well, you have the cartoon, the big red horseshoe, the big with red one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted that, but then I had this idea the day of. If I had it a day sooner, I could have Amazon primed it. Would have been great.
I think it's better you didn't.
Yeah, it's probably better. He was exceptionally nice though. But ICP, I was telling them they have to do something in AEW because they're like they've done every other major promotion in the last 30 years. They have to do it at some point.
I'll never forget that poor guy sliding off that bus when Mike Awesome powerbombed him. He just died.
Yeah. Stephen Camp, yes, I would love to do an interview with ICP. Violent J, Shaggy, separate together, whatever. ICP has always had a soft spot since the Virtual Box album. Absolutely love them. Love what they've done in wrestling. I think they're incredibly entertaining. But let's talk about Asuka versus Charlotte Flair. So we kind of got a lot of the interference stuff out of the way ahead of time when we had Shotzi and Bianca coming out. We saw Mia Yim coming out. So we saw this all sort of break down before the match started to clear the way for this Asuka versus Charlotte match. And rightfully so. I mean, they were touting like this was a WrestleMania match. This was a big deal. They were doing this on free TV with them. But during a commercial break, Charlotte got injured. I didn't really pick that up from the TV match. I thought the ending was kind of abrupt with Bayley popping up and doing a distraction. I was surprised Charlotte lost. I wonder if I assume that was the original idea. But if she was running through damage control, a win might have made more sense. But I hope Charlotte's okay. I've seen conflicting things, but the predominant opinion seems to be something happened with her knee. So I really hope Charlotte is okay. But you could see that she was a little strained towards the end of this match.
Hope she's okay. I go back with members of her family, and I've spent some time with her, and she is a great person and a great wrestler. Hope she's okay. Great match, good match. What a ludicrous ending, you know. Roll up, distraction, roll up, just kill it dead.
Yeah. But that might have been due to the injury, because
there might have been a better plan, but
yeah,
you know, because I was just rolling my eyes. I didn't realize the injury until later, Mike Knox would. That was a Mike Knox joke right there. But hopefully she's okay.
Yeah, no, we hope she's okay. Good match for what we saw of it, but yeah, the ending definitely showed something might have been up. Nick Aldis backstage was handing CM Punk an envelope. Cody Rhodes walked in, and both these men need to win the Royal Rumble to do what they want to do, to headline WrestleMania. And CM Punk said as much during his promo. I mean, it very much seems like, as has been widely speculated on this podcast and probably 100 others, we are going to have CM Punk versus Seth Rollins night 1 as the co-main event, and then Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes night 2.
I guess, I think, well, we've established that CM Punk isn't just going to walk into a main event, that he is established that for him to main event, he has to win the Rumble. So they've kind of boxed that in a little bit. Of course, they can break the box whenever they want. Man, that other world championship is such a lame duck, and I don't know if people buy it as a world championship. It's definitely not. Like, the matchup of Seth Rollins and CM Punk is a greater matchup than a matchup for that world championship. Like, it doesn't need it. No, it doesn't help it. It actually diminishes it maybe a little bit, because the big championship will be Cody and Roman on night 2. I agree Punk is headlining night 1. I'm not sure if it's against Seth then, but it seems like if Punk's in the Rumble, he's not wrestling Seth at the Rumble.
Yeah, so, which is interesting too.
Yeah, so they're stretching out his appearances, whereas in AEW, Punk was willing to wrestle every single week, twice a week. It seems that this contract may be more of a per appearance. They're counting the appearances, because he was on Raw one week, SmackDown the next, probably not on SmackDown next week. Probably the pay-per-view week he'll be on both.
Yeah,
but he's not wrestling.
Punk also ran into Kevin Owens backstage and asked him for directions.
That was fun. Kevin Owens has said, if you read between the lines of what he has said about CM Punk, he said, "I just want where I work to be a fun place." That's what he said, which is kind of like saying, oh boy, it's kind of like saying that,
Well, and I get it. And I think, look,
I get it. His friends are the Bucks. Like, I get it. So if your friends are the guys that hate the guy, you're going to hear nothing but bad things about that guy.
Well, I was going to say, as a fellow Husky man, I still hold a grudge against the guy who was like, "Come on, dude, why are you wearing a t-shirt in a swimming pool?" And I'm like, "Shut up." So, if Kevin wants to wrestle in a t-shirt, let him wrestle in a t-shirt, Punk. Why do you have to give him a hard time?
True. But Kevin Owens always comes across as believable, always comes across as genuine on screen. And so If this was anybody else, you would say, "Oh my God, look how serious he is. This is real." But with Kevin Owens, he's always like that. He's always so good and always so credible that
Yeah.
it was a great moment backstage. I probably would have passed on the next one where he's just like walking up to LA Knight, he's like, "What's up, LA Knight?" Eating catering with Ron Killings, and Push starting a car with Braun Strowman or whatever they have him doing back there. You know, he's stitching up outfits with Cody Rhodes and doing all kinds of cool stuff.
I mean, I think okay, let me put this out there. Given the Seth thing, Punk's not going to SmackDown. Punk's going to Raw. So tonight was their chance to get him brushing shoulders with as much of the SmackDown roster as they could to just maximize that. And the Cody thing was just a bonus to set up the very obvious Mania trajectory.
They should have had a pie fight. And a pie fight to get everybody out there. Yeah. Really cool pie fight.
Actually, I think the last time I saw a food fight in anything was the 4th of July with Kevin Owens getting the pie in the face. I think that's the last time I've seen a food fight in contemporary media.
We never found out who did it.
Well, the Fashion Police did that pilot episode on the WWE network that looks like it was shot on an iPhone. And I believe they said it was, what did they say? Did they say it was The Rock or Vince McMahon? Now I can't remember. I know The Rock was a suspect.
I think it was Jungle Boy.
Yeah, there you go. So let's talk about this main event. Randy Orton and LA Knight versus the Bloodline. What'd you think of this match?
It's your run of the mill garden variety, two top guys against the top team kind of thing. Really without Roman there. These are kind of the 4 biggest names on SmackDown. It was fine. It told the story. I got to tell you, I don't really get LA Knight. I never have.
Interesting.
I don't dislike him. I don't wish ill things upon him. However, I just look at this as something that can't really last and isn't really grounded. And it's a small, it's like, the Patriot or something like that, where it kind of catches fire for a while, but then kind of dies out slowly,
Okay.
Reference. Yeah. But
that's good.
The fans do like him, but what is he about? What does he stand for? What are the reasons that people are compelled? I think he just filled a vacuum at a time, and he filled it very well. So they got to figure out the kind of characterizations that they're doing on Raw, where they're really building these characters up to understand where they're coming from. We don't see that on SmackDown. That's something that LA Knight could definitely use.
Yeah, and it's interesting about the motivation. I think so. Roman's returning to SmackDown next week. But I have to say, I mean, this tonight, the main event, this felt like playing GM mode in WWE 2K23. And they're like, yeah, your champion's not there this week, but so you don't have him for the main event.
But Randy Orton's back.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to use that budget. You're going to put on a hell of a main event. And hopefully you'll get, the stars you need to beat Raw this week and advance in GM mode. If the game doesn't crash and corrupt your saved game.
I'd like if Jimmy and Solo were matching gear when they tag together.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
They're visually, it's weird visually because they are brothers.
Yeah.
So maybe they could rock some matching gear. I don't know. Jimmy still has not found his footing the way that Jay has. Part of it is just the character he was given,
Yeah.
The other part of it is, I think it's mostly that, they're twins, he probably could do the same thing Jay's doing, but Solo's good. Randy Orton is already kind of settled into his elder statesman role. He's kind of the top guy by default. So when Roman comes out next week, he'll be talking to him or talking about him or confronting him or whatever that is. It's fine. The troops seemed to love it. Didn't really move any storylines ahead. It was just hold this space till Roman comes back, like you were saying.
And I did love before Punk asked KO for directions, he was outside the Bloodline office looking at it wistfully. It was like those late nights where you're looking at your phone thinking about texting your ex. He's like, do I knock? No, it's going to be weird. Maybe I just stand outside and he'll run into me. I don't know. But
I'll just give him a call.
Yeah, but Punk and Heyman, that's going to be a good reunion when we see it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was such a great, like that's not a great part of CM Punk's career, Like I
Yeah,
guess they can allude back to it, but like
they're going to retcon it though, like it was some amazing
yeah,
thing.
like talking about like the Undertaker matchup when he's pouring
Oh
ashes
yeah.
all over himself and just Curtis Axel and Ryback and
It's but WWE's great about this though. Every WWE superstar, they present them like they've always been cool. But it's like for the pipe bomb, there were 50 things that you would watch now and be like, oh no, that wasn't good, with CM Punk.
yeah, I'm gonna say the ashes was a low point for me. I think Paul Bearer actually dying and then him pretending that those were his
Yeah.
ashes didn't really hit for me. Not great. Not a great CM Punk moment. But I think, towards the end of his run there, before people started to see, that he was kind of trying to return to that CM Punk voice of the voiceless character.
Mhm.
And I think, I don't know who we're getting now. It doesn't seem the voice of the voiceless. It seems like
No.
it seems like the the guy who wants to come back and take what's his, which is very similar, as he alluded to, the Cody Rhodes story. So hopefully they find a way to reconcile that. Knowing WWE creative these days, I believe they will.
I think it seemed truly rebellious, Punk, if you will, when he was doing the pipe bomb and some of the reality blurring stuff. Now it's a little bit more of like Bugs Bunny looking to the camera and saying, "Ain't I a stinker?" With some of the stuff that he's saying. It is a little more, lampshaded, very soft lobs, but he knows how to poke the bear and get a rise out of people. And look, even though that AEW illusion tonight dropped like a lead balloon in the crowd, like everybody was talking about it on Twitter, there'll be 1,000 articles about it from wrestling sites. People are going to go back and dissect that promo line by line. He knows what he's doing. WWE knows what they're doing. Like there's secondary and tertiary benefits beyond just what that live crowd does. And it keeps people talking about it. And I think that WWE, I was going to say, is so in love with their own hype that when they're like, oh, it's the most social moment ever, like I guarantee you, especially into the Nick Khan TKO regimen, this is going to be a very data-driven company, and they're going to look and say, okay, what is it that's getting these spikes? What is it that's getting these impressions? They did some of that, but the problem before is it was all overridden by Vince's gut feeling, which was as old and out of touch as it could possibly be. So I think we might, I think they're going to see where they can walk that line without crossing it with him in the future, just to keep the buzz going.
And I think it's something that hurts AEW, is the opposite of that. They're very data driven. If you talk to anybody in the company that's, high enough up, they will always use numbers to justify the most ludicrous thing possible. I've seen it time and time again from a few people whose names you would know. Like, they really do love their numbers, but sometimes you got to go with gut feeling. Sometimes you got to look above and beyond the numbers. Numbers don't lie. I totally agree with that. But to their detriment, they really get inside those numbers instead of just going with what makes the fans cheer.
Yeah. Supposedly the Bryan Danielson match on Rampage was great tonight.
I heard he gigged his eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Not a fan of that.
Yeah, it's just, and that's the problem I have. It's like every time, on the pay-per-views, I'll get into it, and then it's like, oh, now we're doing the like the spike crown in the hair, like different things where it's just, oh, this is very uncomfortable to watch. But no, look, I think SmackDown was good. Randy Orton and LA Knight, the right call. But yeah, this felt like a very fun house show match. But the good news is, with Roman Reigns back next week, we're in the build up to the Royal Rumble, which means we're going to be on the road to WrestleMania. Like they're unpausing the biggest title and storyline. We'll get Randy Orton in the bloodline and some movement on that really starting next week with Roman back.
And also, like, this is not usually a time where we're really building up to the Rumble and building up to Mania, and
Yeah.
they have, I think, noticed in years past that this is usually dead time for WWE. You know, this December is usually kind of rough, and they're using it to build intrigue. You know, luckily, like you said, they got CM Punk in this time period, and you know, you have the intrigue of Randy Orton with Roman and Cody with Roman, and I think Seth has some kind of title too. But like, you know, there's a lot of intrigue there.
Yeah. We'll see. So hey everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight. It was a different show, but a fun show. I like that they're laying it out a bit with CM Punk. We're kind of over the fact that he's back, and now we're going to kind of see in the direction it's going to go in.
He was great. He did what he needed to do for the job he was hired to do. If you think about what his job is to make money. Promos are to make money. There's no better promo than he could have done tonight to make money for himself and the company he works for. Yeah.
His original Raw return, that was just let's get everybody's attention and set the stage. That was the single "The Girl Is Mine" with Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson.
Dude, "The Girl Is Mine" is a hot song. I have kids, so my kids right now, we have our concert in January. We have 7. We're doing all 7 singles from Thriller.
Wow.
So because we're really good, and I'm ambitious. So "The Girl Is Mine," a couple of my kids are doing. That song is absolutely fire as a musical piece. Once you get inside all those parts, I didn't really think a lot of it before, but now I'm for it.
Yes. Although you listen to the rest of Thriller and you say, what in the heck is this song doing on this album? And I watched the great documentary. Matt, do you know that 40 years ago, last week, the music video for Michael Jackson Thriller was released? It's 40 years old, the video.
I remember thinking at the time, like, it's not the best song, but it's a great video.
Oh, and amazing.
In teaching the song, there's a lot of parts to it, but there's a lot of repetition. It's not the greatest song. "Wanna Be Starting Something" is a great song.
It's phenomenal. But yeah, this documentary, what I loved about it, it was all about the making of the record, and they go song by song, how they made it, the process. But I don't want to spoil it, but there's the scene where they start breaking down Thriller from the drum pattern to the bass line to the synth line, and it's like new appreciation for the song. But I'll leave everybody with this. You've heard Thriller a million times, and you think this is kind of a weird song. They released the demo a few years ago of the original version when it was called Starlight. And if you want to hear how an iconic song almost wasn't an iconic song, Google that and listen to that original demo with the original lyrics. It's very weird. Anyhow, that's tonight for Wrestling Inc. Matt, this has been great. Hope we get to do this again soon.
For sure.
There's no podcast for Deadline tomorrow night, but I'll be watching, tweeting along. Follow me on Twitter at Glenn Rubenstien. Matt is at Matt Kuhn Music. And everybody have a great weekend. We'll catch you back here next time on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.